Welcome to Department of Distance and Continuing Education, University of Delhi. Master of Business Administration, Semester 1. Core Course MBA FT 6106, Human Resource Management. Lesson number 7, Industrial Relations. 7.1, Learning Objectives. After studying this lesson, you will be able to: number 1, explain the concept of industrial relations and its emergence. Number 2, elaborate the nature and objectives of industrial relations. Number 3, enumerate the stages of evolution of industrial relations. Number 4, identify the 3 important parties and their roles in industrial relations. Number 5, explain the effects of environmental determinants on industrial relations. Number 6, define trade unions and their emergence, its present condition and its future. Number 7, understand the concept of industrial harmony and workers' participation in management. Last, understand the concept, significance and functions of collective bargaining. 7.2, Introduction to Industrial Relations. Starting from the medieval period, when the relations between the master and servant were not complex, moreover, it was direct and personal. Hence, it was easy to secure cooperation from the workers. Relations between them was easy as the masters were approachable and they were enough to take workers out of their difficulties. Then the situation underwent a change with the emergence of factory system after England's industrial relations in the 18th century. In this system, the old philosophy didn't work as the workers faced many economic, social and psychological problems, and what was majorly needed was their welfare and well-being. This gave birth to the concept of industrial relations to tackle with the workers' insecurities and unrest at the industries, as there was high need for cooperation between labor and employers. The term industrial relations consists of 2 words, industry and relations. Relations coexist with humans, and industry is a place where number of humans initially unknown to each other meet, work, compete and cooperate, which makes it even more important to tie them in a harmonious relationship to maintain industrial peace. Therefore, after Industrial Revolution, which marked the emergence of factories and labor, management relations, industrial relations evolved to regulate and harmonize their relations and to safeguard the labor from all sorts of exploitation at the industries and also to ensure their complete welfare and well-being. We shall now understand the concept of industrial relations more comprehensively with the help of some definitions. H. Henry Richardson asserts, industrial relations is an art, the art of living together for the purpose of production. To work together, it becomes a necessity for them to learn this art by acquiring the skill of adjustment. On the other hand, H.A. Clark emphasized the regulation and institutionalization of industrial relations when he asserted that the field of industrial relations includes the study of workers and their trade unions, management, employers association, and the state institutions concerned with the regulation of employment. National Commission of Labour also emphasized that industrial relations affect not merely the interests of the 2 participants, labor and management, but also the economic and social goals to which the state addresses itself. To regulate these relations in socially desirable channels is a function which the state is in the best position to perform. The above definitions clarify that industrial relations emerges out of employee-employer relations in industries which are regulated by the government, state in various aspects. 7.2.1 Nature of industrial relations. Number 1. Industrial relation is interdisciplinary in nature, as the study of conditions like level of wages and security of employment is related to economics. We study their origin and evolution. It comes under history. Resultant social conflicts due to these issues comes under sociology. Study of attitude of various parties to industrial relations comes under the purview of psychology. State policies bearing on the issues under political science, the legal aspect of the issue under law, the technological aspect under the study of technology, and the quantitative assessment of losses incurred by the parties and the country's economy under mathematics. Number 2. Industrial relation is multidimensional in nature, having three major dimensions as determinants, namely, first, institutional factors such as government policies, labor laws, unions, of workers and employers, power, structure, community, etc. Second, economic factors such as type of economic ownership like capitalist, socialist, company ownership, etc. Third, technological factors such as techniques of production, capital structure, rationalization, etc. Third, industrial relations as web of rules formed by the interaction of the government, the industry and the laborers are influenced by the existing and emerging institutional, economic and technological factors. 7.2.2 Aspects of industrial relations. Cooperation is as common in human nature as conflict. Therefore, Douglas MacGregor considers both to be the two most important aspects of industrial relations. Cooperation. Cooperation between union and management, the two actors in the industrial relations drama, differing in economic power, wealth and education, depends primarily on their ability and willingness to make contacts at points of mutual concerns. In a nutshell, union management cooperation will be a function of two forces, the behavioral pattern of union and management, and the balancing of union rights with management rights. This will require a tough exercise in the demarcation of joint and exclusive areas of the two parties. Second, conflict. Conflict. In labor management relationship, conflict is inevitable. To some extent, it also forms the base for their survival and is not always destructive. But the same conflict, when becomes recurring in nature, can be hazardous. Hence, a timely realization and redressal is necessary to maintain industrial harmony. 7.2.3 Objectives of industrial relations. According to the Labour Management Committee of the Asian Regional Conference of the International Labour Organization (ILO), along with the primary objective of improving the economic conditions of the workers, increasing productivity, and achieving industrial democracy in industrial enterprise, have also identified following as the fundamental objectives of industrial relations. Number 1. To enable employers and trade unions to deal with their mutual problems freely, independently and responsibly. Number 2. Facilitating the maximum use of collective bargaining for mutual accommodation. Third, enabling workers and employers organization to associate with government agencies in consideration of general public, social and economic measures affecting employers and workers' relations. Fourth, timely redressal of industrial conflicts and policing the occurrence of strikes and lockouts. Fifth, to provide higher job satisfaction to the workers to minimize labor turnover and absenteeism. Sixth, to promote workers' participation in management. Seventh, to encourage government control in regulating production and industrial relations. 7.2.4 Systems Approach to Industrial Relations. John Dunlop proposed systems approach to industrial relations. This approach focuses on participants in the process, environmental forces, and the output. It also studies interrelations among different facets of industrial relations system. Figure 1.1 shows systems approach to industrial relations. The basic elements of the system. Number 1. Participants in the system. Workers and their organization, management and their representatives, and government. These subsystems interact with each other within the economic, social, and politico-legal framework of the country. Second, environment. Dunlop referred to these components as technological subsystem, economic subsystem, and political subsystem. A. Technological characteristics. Industrial relations would be very different in a labor-intensive industry than a capital-intensive one. Changes in technology enhances the employer's expectations about the skills of workers. The work processes and methods with modern techniques reduce the manual work and workers acquire greater control over their work. Thus, higher production can be achieved. Market or economic constraints. These factors influence industrial relations because the need for labor is closely related to the demand of products. As the competition rises up, the market share of an enterprise becomes uncertain, which influences the industrial relations both in long and short terms. C. The locus and balance of power. The locus and balance of power in a society also influences the relationship between labor and management. The regulatory role of government is an important factor in shaping the pattern of industrial relations. Third, output. The output is the result of interaction of the parties, actors of the system, which is manifested in the network of rules, policies and agreements, etc. This facilitates the workers. 7.2.5 Environmental Framework of Industrial Relations. Relations at the workplace are influenced by various environmental factors. These factors shape these relationships. They even reinforce them in the course of developing industrial relations. Number 1. Economic forces. There are numerous economic factors as difference in wages, unemployment, relative status, which has a direct relationship with the industrial relations. If the demand for higher wages and improvement in standard of living will not be met, conflict is inevitable. Second, social factors. In the initial stage of industrialization, various social factors such as social groups, social values and norms, social status influence industrial relations, which gives rise to the existence of class in industries. But with the progress in industrialization, such factors lose their importance. Third, psychological forces. Lack of motivation, lower morale, loss of personal identity, lack of interest, and dissatisfaction due to dissatisfaction of work give vent to the workers' protest and to fight the same. Employers form their organization. Thus, an environment of power relationship is created which might culminate in collective bargaining. Fourth, politico-legal forces. The system of government, political institutions, judiciary, etc. influence the industrial relations in the country to a great extent. For example, the philosophy of the political party in power influences the state of industrial relations by enacting and enforcing various statutes for the protection of the interests of the workers. 7.2.6 Evolution of Industrial Relations. History of India marks the evolution of industrial relations in three distinct phases. First phase began from the middle of the 19th century and ended by the end of the First World War. Thereafter, commenced the second phase and lasted by the attainment of independence in 1947, and the post-independence era represents the third phase. First phase. It commenced with the British government attempt to minimize the competitive advantage of indigenous employers against the British employers by regulating the condition of work in their ways. A series of legislative measures were adopted which worked as the beginning of industrial relations in India. The establishment of International Labour Organization (ILO) in 1919 had a great effect on industrial relations in India. With budding trade unions in India, foundation of All India Trade Union Congress in 1920 also was an important event in the history of industrial relations in our country. Second phase. As an extension to the first phase, after the First World War, a number of laws were enacted. For example, Trade Dispute Act 1929 provided a conciliation machinery for settlement of disputes. Also, a survey was conducted by the Royal Commission on Labour to assess labour problems in India related to their working conditions with respect to health, safety and welfare of the workers, and made recommendations to make further modifications in policies, acts and laws. Third phase. The Industrial Truce Revolution adopted in 1947 was the major development in this phase. This encouraged the labour and management to assist the government to secure, promote and guarantee such agreements between the parties as will usher in the period of contented and ordered advancement towards a cooperative commonwealth. Under this phase, more importance is given to the need for respecting the mutuality of interest between labour and capital in industrial development, and recommended to the parties the method of mutual discussion of all problems common to both and the determination to settle all disputes without recourse to interruption in or slowing down of production. In the end, it can be stated that as far as evolution of industrial relations in India has been gradual, it went through phases from traditional to modern times of its existence. The evolution took place also to bring about change for the betterment of working conditions of the workers in terms of their health, safety and welfare at the workplace. Finally, it took a turn towards important to mutuality of interest and role of government in practicing law for dealing with industry related issues. 7.3 Dynamics of employees, employer and the state. Industrial relations is made of two terms, out of which more important is relations. When it comes to relationship, their existence is possible only when there are two or more parties to it. In industrial relations, this relation is employment relationships. In industry, that is between employers and labor, which is secured under the great influence of government of the nation or state. Therefore, there are three major parties to industrial relations, namely workers and their organization, employers and their organization, and government or state. They have their own unique role to play in regulating industrial relations in the interest of industry and largely of the nation. Figure 7.1 shows parties to industrial relations. 7.3.1 Parties to industrial relations. The three major variables in industrial relations are: first, workers and their organizations. The diverse workforce with various differences in their characteristics, culture, attainment, qualifications, skills, and attitude forms a very important element of this industrial relations network. Workers' organization, to be more specific, the trade unions are political institutions and are formed for safeguarding the political and social interests of the workers. The trade unions are political institutions and are formed for safeguarding the political and social interests of the workers. They are the workers' representatives and moreover workers as mediator between workers and the employers. Its major objective is to strengthen the workers' position to support the fulfillment of their organizational objectives and to secure management cooperation for the same. Second, employers and their organization. The other important thread to the network of industrial relations is the employer. In fact, the industries exist because of employers, as they are the creators. They create industries and employment for the workers. They are the one who regulates the employment related factors such as work behavior, attitude, satisfaction for securing higher productivity from them. Similar to workers' organizations, employers also sometimes have their association in order to increase their bargaining power to be utilized in the times of disputes with the workers. Employers' association can create pressure on workers as well as government as and when required to regulate industrial relations. C. Government and state. Third, government state. An influential partner in the industrial relations system which bears powers over and above workers' association and employers' organization is the government, whose role is to intervene in the working relationships and regulating working conditions through various laws relating to labor in the interest of employers, workers as well as the nation. 7.3.2 The Workers' Association Trade Union. Unlike traditional, less complicated, less technological relation between workers and employers, the modern industrial organizations using modern technology and large number of workers led to the development and growth of trade unions not only in advanced economies but also in developing economies like India. The emergence of trade unionism is spontaneous and inherent in the growth of capitalism. The origin of trade unionism lies in the Industrial Revolution, which disrupted the older way of life and created a new society forged by the shop, the mine, and the industry. According to Flippo, a labor union or trade union is an organization of workers formed to promote, protect, and improve, through collective action, the social, economic, and political interests of its members. Following are some important features of trade unions. First, it is an organization formed by employees and workers. It is formed on a continuous basis. It is a permanent body and not a casual or temporary one. Third, it is formed to promote and protect all kinds of interest, most importantly economic. Fourth, it achieves its objectives through collective action and group efforts. Objectives of trade unions. First, steady employment. Steady, that is stable. Stability in employment can be achieved only with the equity between work and pay. An important objective of trade unions is to achieve this equity between the two, which should also be competitive in market and beneficial and satisfactory for workers. Second, regulating personnel policy. The organization runs with various policies related to selection of employees for layoff, retirement, transfer, and promotion, assigning employees to job and disciplining them. These decisions shouldn't be subjective, rather it should be transparent and fair to all, driving management towards maintaining This transparency in the whole organizational process is also one of the objectives of trade unions. Third, making their voice heard in decision making. Managing an organization is all about crucial decisions taken at the right point of time in the most appropriate manner. Hence, in this vital process, workers' voice will be heard. Their inputs will be taken only when they will have strength and strong views. Trade unions are for the purpose of providing that required strength to workers so that they can also put forward their suggestions in important decisions which will affect them in industries. Fourth, recognition and participation. When alone recognition is difficult, but as an association, recognition and participation can be sought easily. Same lies with trade unions. Workers join trade unions so as to gain position of equal partners with management in the task of production. Fifth, securing legal sanctions. In order to secure a permanent position in the contract between employers and workers, the workers' demands need to avail a legal sanction. For the same to happen, unions may take recourse of political backing or forming their own political party. Also, modern trade unions engage in achieving many more objectives like providing educational, medical, recreational, and other facilities for the welfare and well-being of the families of the trade unions if they have sufficient funds. Functions of trade unions. There are broadly three categories of functions performed by trade unions, that is, militant functions, fraternal functions, and political functions. Militant functions. Although collective bargaining and negotiations are the major weapons in the hands of trade unions, in certain situations when they, along with their other rights, also try to secure share in productivity gains, greater contribution in management decision making, or even control of industry. They can adopt certain agitational methods like strike, lockouts, ghero, etc., increasing unrest in the industry for fulfillment of their demands. Fraternal function. Fraternal responsibility is about standing in support in unfavorable times. This is what this function of union addresses. In the period of work stoppages due to strikes, gheros, or in times of illness, employment injury, or when they are temporarily unemployed, unions are always willing to provide financial assistance and support. Political functions. Unions also sometimes attempts to improve the political status of its leader, members, and union itself through associating them with political parties and sometimes contesting as political parties themselves in order to have influence over government and the labor policies. 7.3.3 Employers Organization. Employers organization in India have a three-tier structure, that is, local associations, regional industrial associations, and All India Federation. Of the three, the local associations, which operate mainly through the chambers of commerce, covers all industries in an area. Their activities in the labor field are comparatively less extensive. The industrial associations are the general patterns of organization of employers in India. They are formed at the area or regional level as also at the all India level and are generally affiliated to the central industrial organizations. At the national level, there are federations, namely All India Organization of Employers, formed in 1932, Employers Federation of India, formed in 1933, and All India Manufacturers Organization, formed in 1941, which have been given representations on different tripartite labor consultative bodies. Roles of Employers Organization. Employers Federation of India. The main objectives of the establishment of EFI are: first, to protect and promote the legitimate interest of employers engaged in industry, trade, and commerce. Second, to maintain harmonious relations between management and labor and to initiate and support schemes that would increase productivity and give labor a fair share of the increased return. Third, to collect and disseminate information affecting employers and to advise members on their labor, employer relations, and other related problems. All India Organization of Employers. The main objectives are: first, to take all steps which may be necessary for promoting, supporting, or opposing legislative and other measures affecting and likely to affect directly or indirectly industries in general or particular. Second, to nominate delegates and advisors, etc., to represent the employers of India at international platform. Third, to promote and support all schemes for the general uplift of labor and to take all possible steps to establish harmonious relations between capital and labor. All India Manufacturers Organization addresses the following objectives, which is not much different from that of EFI and AIOE. First, to help bring about the rapid industrialization of the country through sound and progressive economic policies. Second, to help increasing the aggregate wealth of India. Third, to utilize to the fullest possible extent all the available national resources and talent in the country to uplift the standards of living of the people. Functions of employers' organization. A major function of an employer's organization is to protect and promote the interests of its members. Economic, commercial, and fiscal matters and policies are crucial for them. They seek for legislative support for the realization of their objectives. Other than the above, there are some more functions of employers' organization towards labor are as follows. First, communication. Communication regarding developed or developing labor legislations, regarding changes in labor policy, significant court decisions on labor matters, as well as proceedings of important tripartite deliberations, etc., has to be clearly and completely made by employers' organization to its members. Second, advisory functions. Employers' organizations build up an expert advisory service on labor matters to advise their affiliates. Third, educational efforts. Employers Federation of India conducts various seminars, conferences, and training programs to discuss important issues in the labor management relations. Fourth, social responsiveness. Participating in national plans for economic development, eliciting responsive cooperation from the unions, improving levels of production and productivity, pursuing policies, adopting neighborhood villages, etc., are various social responsibility shouldered by employers' organization. Fifth, representational roles. They also represent employers on various significant platforms as wage boards and various committees formed by the government to place their point of views before them. 7.3.4 State or Union Government. Among the three parties to industrial relations, the apex governing body is the state, which has the responsibility of correct any kind of imbalance or disrupted social and economic order so that the complex socio-economic system of industries. In various instances of disputes and indiscipline which goes out of the hands of the management and they fail to resolve it through mutual agreement, bargaining and negotiation. The roles of state in industrial relations. Number 1. The major role played by the state is to lay down the labor policy as guiding principles for the labor-related issues such as wage payments, regulation of health and safety, welfare and social security, union management relations, etc. Second, Labor policy is directed towards the achievement of various goals like industrial peace and harmony, reducing inequalities, increasing standard of living of workers, increasing productivity, providing social security, providing a fair wage, etc. Third, to achieve the above, state also has the responsibility of keeping in place the industrial relations policy, welfare policy, social security policy, etc. Fourth, concern for planned development and rapid economic growth. Fifth, fulfill requirements of a welfare sphere as included in directive principles of state policy. Sixth, addressing to the social economic imbalances in the society, depressed conditions in the working class as observed by the Royal Commission of Labour and the Labour Investigation Committee. Seventh, addressing to the imbalances in between unions and employers and the weaknesses of both the social partners, leading to preference for adjudication despite known appreciation of the merits of free and fair collective bargaining. Eighth, to achieve the commanding heights of the economy as per the Industrial Policy Resolution 1956. 7.4 Trade Unions. With the emergence of industries after Industrial Revolution between 1750 and 1825 AD, that resulted into modern factory system. It was characterized by large scale production and employment and separation of management from ownership, because of which personal touch has been lost and the relations between workers and management became very formal and complex. The desire for higher profits by employers and weak bargaining power in the hands of workers led to the exploitation of working class. After a long time, they realized that if the workers will not strengthen their position before employers, they will be in great danger of serious exploitation by the employers. Hence, trade unions came into existence. After emergence, with the passage of time and changes in situation, the face and form of trade unions also changed leaps and bounds. Trade unions owe their origin to class struggle between the capitalist employers and their workers. To get more and more profits, employers exploit the workers, who because of their common interest to get more wages unite in trade unions and then resist the employers. To be more specific, the origin and growth of trade unionism is the result of the increased complexities of economic structure. Industrial Revolution made it all the more essential to organize workers to protect their economic rights and secure better working environment. Thus, trade unionism is the child of industrialization born out of the stresses and strains of Industrial Revolution. 7.4.1 Trade Unions Past. Initially, it was some social workers, philanthropists, and other religious leaders who started their efforts towards retaining worker welfare in industries. Social reformers under the leadership of Sarabji Shapoorji Bengali started an agitation to draw the attention of the government towards deteriorating conditions of workers in industries, especially those of women and children, and to appeal to the authorities to introduce legislation for bettering their conditions in industries. Such pressure from social reformers and the traders compelled the government to move ahead on this path, and on the basis of the reports of Factories Commission, the first Indian Factories Act was enacted in 1881. The act was a cause of great disappointment due to its inappropriateness in terms of its insufficient provisions for women and child labor, raised demands for its amendment, which led to an atmosphere of agitation. 7.4.1.1 Emergence of a labor leader. Sri Narayan Meghaji Lokhande, who was influenced by Mahatma Phule of Maharashtra emerged as the first labor leader in India. He devoted his whole life to the cause of labor movement. Sri Lokhande organized a conference of workers in Bombay and drew up a memorandum signed by about 5,300 workers, which was presented to the Factory Commission. It contained the following demands. First, complete day of rest after a week. Second, work should begin at 6:30 am and end at sunset. Third, half hour rest at noon. Fourth, payment of wages not later than 15th day after the due date. Fifth, payment of wages for the period of employment injury. 7.4.1.2 Formation of first labor organization. The first workers' organization in India was the Bombay Mill Hands Association, organized in the year 1890 by Sri N.M. Lokhande, a factory worker himself. He was its first president also. However, the Bombay Mill Hands Association had no roll of membership, no funds, and no rules. Hence, it is more correctly called as a philanthropic promoter of workers' welfare rather than a labor organization. Sri Lokhande, president of Bombay Mill Hands Association, present the petition again for resuming with the previous demands, which was followed by a bigger petition signed by 17,000 workers. Based on this recommendation to Factory Commission, the Indian Factory Act of 1981 was passed. The important provisions of the Act was: first, regulation of hours of work for women labor to 11 hours a day with rest interval for 1.5 hours. Second, raising of minimum and maximum ages of children to 9 and 14 respectively. After the inception of Countries Act 1891, a large number of labor associations were started. Some more important of them were the Amalgamated Society of Railway Servants of India 1897, the Printers Union Calcutta 1905, the Bombay Postal Union 1907, the Kamgar Hitwangdak Sabha Bombay 1910. 7.4.1.3 Post-independence scenario. Trade union movements in Punjab and Bengal were adversely affected by the partition of country. The three central trade union organizations of that time were AITUC, IFL and INTUC. Among the three, IFL was adversely affected. The IFL lost one of its big constituent unions in Calcutta and Bengal Chamber of Labour with membership of over 1 lakh, as most of the workers were Muslims who migrated to Pakistan. When the socialists started Hind Mazdoor Sabha in December 1948, the Indian Federation of Labour existed then, and they both merged together. Still, there were disagreements towards principles and objectives of Hind Mazdoor Sabha. Therefore, United Trade Union Committee was formed. The committee called a conference of various leaders at Calcutta on 30th April 1949, and the United Trade Union Congress was formed. By 1949, 4 central trade union organizations were functioning in the country, namely, first, the All India Trade Union Congress, second, the Indian National Trade Union Congress, third, the Hind Mazdoor Sabha, fourth, the United Trade Union Congress. With increasing industrialization, a number of industries emerged, and organized sector started growing rapidly. With the increasing number of workers, number of trade unions also increased. The industries were in a better capacity to pay, and unions could negotiate and extract better wages and facilities through collective bargaining. That era witnessed a continuous increase in the number of registered trade unions. Another important reason responsible for this increase in the political influence. Various parties, with the intention of being in good books of workers, tried to bring workers within the folds of unions, which also increased the extent of unionization and made workers aware of the usefulness of this instrument. 7.4.2 Trade Union Present. About the present state of the trade unions, we can only say that it is in its twilight state. The emergence and dominance of private sector governed by mostly information technology and artificial intelligence brings us to the decreasing bites of trade unions in the industrial system. Unionization of employees are now considered to be traditional methods of regulating employee working conditions. With the increase in modern industries, the employees have developed a distastefulness towards unionization. Issues like wage fixation for today's generation are not done through agitational methods, as it's an old school method. Now, fixing salary is much related to the market conditions, the competition in the market, and goodwill of the company, and so on. If we talk about providing adequate facilities and working condition, today belief that employees are the first consumers has worked wonders as everyone believe in keeping customers happy. So they try to provide the best facilities, the most conducive environment to work in order to maintain their edge over the other competitors and to retain the best talent with them in the competitive market. So for all these, they really don't need to depend on trade unions for bargaining and negotiating on their behalf, leading to fewer grievances on the employee front. Now, the positive side, businesses became more proficient in dealing with employees. In large Indian corporates, supervisors have become far more understanding and respectful of their teams. In any case, for the bulk of the workforce, instead of supervisors and IR officers are finding ways to motivate employees rather than ways to exploit them. Still, in various industries in the country, we may witness work stoppages and industrial unrest, but those are symbolic. The back-breaking stoppages that used to happen traditionally is out of scene now. 7.4.3 Trade Union Future. Uncertain. Is the future of trade unions just as the future of the work? The sea change brought into the labor markets due to the globalization, demographic factors, environmental and other technological changes. Further, the COVID-19 crisis has increased the challenge to the next level by shutting down number of factories and making labor sit at home jobless. This also witnessed a dip in trade union membership, leading to a downfall in trade unions. In future, also the organizations are believed to become even more human-centric, widening the bridge between industries and need of unionization for the employees. The scenario in future will also showcase that how industries make efforts to keep employees highly motivated. The future only talks about talent acquisition, talent management, intellectual capital management, human resource as business partners are the like, leaving no room for employees to bind themselves as unions or feel the need to unite for better bargaining and negotiation with the management. And the agitational methods like work stoppages, strikes, ghero, and so on has only found a place in books and have become only symbolic. 7.5 Industrial Harmony. Workers' Participation. Harmony is where equality is. In the industry, where all citizens are treated as equal and are allowed to participate freely in industrial affairs, they are treated as responsible partners of the enterprise and are allowed to participate in the decision-making process, where they are also given the rights of self-expression and an opportunity to communicate their view on framing the policies of the company, and in turn what is needed is the service that they are expected to render in industry. In such kind of a setup, industrial harmony can prevail for long. Workers' participation in management is a nutshell in prerequisite to industrial harmony. There are various objectives, modes and levels of workers' participation in management. 7.5.1 Industrial Harmony. Industrial harmony synonymously used for the term industrial peace. There is certain requisite to peace and harmony in industries. When there is non-existence of situations of unrest in organization, no existence of strike by labor unions in organization resulting into competent and productive harmony persists. The dimensions that contribute towards industrial harmony also involve non-existence of industrial dissatisfaction, presence of consensus, trust and rest between work teams and unions, good connection between unions, delegate and administration of the organization, employee positive attitude towards his or her impact to the organization, commitment and retention. Today's modern philosophy of management that strives to maintain harmony in industry is based on considering workers not merely a wage earner, but also as equal partners in the productive process. They should be given the opportunity to participate in the management of the enterprise. Their views and suggestions should be given due consideration while taking decisions by the management. It is rightly suggested that management of industrial unit will be smooth and efficient if workers are associated with the management. Merits of industrial harmony. First, it brings effective communication between workers and management. Second, it leads to cordial labor management relationships. It gives higher status to workers and drives them towards higher participation. It develops spirit of cooperation among workers and management both. Workers feel committed to the decisions taken by them jointly with the management. For the above harmony to be maintained in industries, there are various contributing factors and an important one is workers' participation in management. Further in this chapter, we will majorly focus on this aspect. 7.5.2 Workers' participation in management. Worker is someone who works in a particular job or in a particular way. Worker participation in any organization is important because 80% of the organization's success depends on the workers' performance. According to the claims made in literature that modern management should and is empowering the ordinary employees in new potential ways, also employee involvement and their techniques may enhance management communication and increase their motivation. According to Malcolm Leary, involvement of worker improves quality of thinking which is beneficial for decision making. Keith Davis has defined the term participation as a mental and emotional involvement of a person in a group situation which encourages him to contribute to group goals and share responsibilities in them. This definition shows three important elements of participation. Firstly, it means mental and emotional involvement rather than only physical activity. Secondly, participation must motivate a person to contribute to a specific situation to invest his own resources such as initiative, knowledge, creativity, ingenuity in the objectives of the organization. And thirdly, it encourages people to share responsibility for a decision or activity. 7.5.3 Importance of workers' participation in management. From the above discussion, we can conclude that for a smooth functioning of any organization, industrial harmony and peace are the basic requirements, and it can be achieved through workers' participation in management. Now let us discuss that what is its importance in the organization. First, reduced industrial unrest. By cutting at the very root of industrial conflict, workers' participation minimizes the conflicting interest between the parties and substitute it with cooperation, homogeneous objectives and common interest by making the decision arrived at become ours instead of theirs. Second, reduced misunderstanding. A common reason for misunderstanding among workers and managers is their outlook towards each other. They both believe that the other is working only with the intention of maximizing their own profits. This can be resolved through workers' participation in management so that they are aware of the decisions and also have the feeling of belongingness. Third, increased organizational balance. In an environment where employees are free to share their problems and work towards common solution to those problems, there will be high degree of balance because of decreased misunderstandings and conflict. Fourth, improved communication. With decreased misunderstanding, there will be a free flow of communication. Many a time, because of certain barriers, important information gets restricted from flowing freely. Participation tends to break this barrier and make the available to managers for better decision making. Fifth, higher productivity. Cooperation between labor and management is the key to higher productivity. This was empirically tested that poor labor management relationship never encouraged the workers to perform any more than the minimum requirement to retain their job. Therefore, participation becomes important to increase productivity. Sixth, increased commitment. Higher commitment comes from higher involvement and opportunity to express oneself, contributing to the decisions, putting forward constructive opinions, getting acknowledged, accepted and appreciated for the same contributes to increased commitment and higher participation. Industrial democracy. Democracy is about reducing class conflict between capital and labor. Democracy is about encouraging people to have their own individuality and confidence in themselves to take a stand, putting point of views forward and participate in decision making process. Developments of individuals. Opportunity to express enhances creativity and ability to face job related challenges. When they enjoy freedom to give suggestions rather just following instructions, their self-confidence improves and there is higher room for further growth and development. Less resistance to change. When the changes are just introduced without explanation, they moreover become compulsion leading to high amount of resistance. On the contrary, if the changes are discussed and planned collectively, there will be lower resistance and higher acceptance and cooperation for its execution. 7.5.4 Modes of workers' participation in management. There are various methods through which workers participate in management of industrial enterprise. Number 1. Work committee. Matters associated with wage payments, bonus, training, discipline, etc. are discussed in work committee. It consists of equal number of representatives of both employers and workers, who meets frequently for discussion on commonly identified problems of workers and management. Joint decisions are taken on such issues and are binding on both the parties. Work committees are very popular in France and England but are not proved to be effective in India. Number 2. Joint Management Council. It involves setting up of joint committees represented by the workers and the management to discuss and give suggestions for improvement on matters of mutual interest. The decisions taken by such committee are not binding on either party but are implemented if they reach consensus in decision. Matters relating to wages, bonus and incentives are generally kept out of the reach of Joint Management Council. Issues relating employee welfare, safety measures, grievance redressal, training, working hours, etc. are dealt under Joint Management Council. Number 3. Collective bargaining. It is a process where employees through their elected leaders participate intermittently with management with the purpose of negotiating on labor agreements for redressing the grievances of the workers. Number 4. Co-partnership. By purchasing shares of the company of employees, become co-owners so that they can participate in the management of the company through their elected representatives on the board of directors. They can also attend general meetings of shareholders and exercise their voting rights. Number 5. Suggestion schemes. Here the workers are encouraged to give their suggestions to the management on various administrative matters, which are accepted if found suitable. Those providing constructive suggestions are also rewarded. This method is executed with the help of suggestion boxes. These suggestions are collected every month and suitable decisions are taken jointly by the committee comprising representatives of workers and management. Number 6. Grievance procedure. In Indian context, Section 9C of Industrial Dispute Act provides that in every establishment in which 100 or more workers are employed or have been employed on any one day in the preceding 12 months, the employer shall set up a time-bound grievance redressal procedure. Number 7. Quality Circle. First originated in Japan during 1962 and then spread in many other countries including India. They are autonomous units of about 10 workers led by a supervisor. The workers who have a shared area of responsibility meet weekly to discuss, analyze and propose solution to an ongoing problem such as reducing defects, scrap, rework and downtime leading to higher productivity. 7.5.5 Workers' participation in management in India. Around 1910, it was introduced in textile industry. Soon after the First World War, Tata Iron and Steel Company of Jamshedpur set up a workers' committee with workers' corporation, but it wound up after few years as it was not effective. The Royal Commission on Labour in India recommended workers' committee at the plant and industry levels for consultation and resolution of disputes. But they also could not make much difference. After 1940, with the emergence of Indian Labour Conference, trade unions and political leaders made demands for labour association with management. It took a legislative form only when the Government of India enacted Industrial Disputes Act in 1947, which made it obligatory for all units employing more than 100 workers to constitute workers' committees. The idea of associating labour with management is even found in the directive principles of the state policy in the Indian Constitution. The Industrial Policy Resolution of April 1956 made it clear that in a socialist democracy, labour is a partner in the common task of development and should participate in it with enthusiasm. 7.5.6 Success for workers' participation in management. Following requirements should be fulfilled in order to make workers' participation in management successful. Number 1. Enterprise should have a progressive management which is conscious of obligation and responsibilities towards its stakeholders and the country as a whole. Number 2. Presence of strong trade union which is a true representative of the workers. Number 3. Unanimity regarding organizational objectives between management and labor as well as mutual recognition of their rights and responsibilities. Number 4. Atmosphere of trust should be there both on management and workers' side. Number 5. Both management and workers should be aware of the benefits of participation. Merely as an action participation cannot be effective. Till the time workers, management and the government will not feel committed and determined, participation will remain fruitless. Number 6. Single union should work as representative of workers in the participation process so as to prevent inter-union rivalry, which can adversely affect the industrial growth. 7.5.7 Industrial harmony and workers' participation in management. In simple terms, it can be explained by saying that workers' participation in management crystallizes the concept of industrial harmony. On the other, this is also a fact that managers, employers are really fascinated with this concept. But in most of the cases, they are clueless about what should be done to achieve harmony through workers' participation and how workers' participation can be achieved. We can say that workers' participation is the basic requirement for industrial harmony and peace. In order to achieve the same and effective system of communication and consultation between the employees and workers is required. Industrial harmony that can be achieved through industrial democracy is an attitude which can be given a clear and concrete shape only through workers' participation in management. There is absolutely no conflict between the two concepts. In fact, they both complement each other and are supplementary in character. 7.6 Collective Bargaining Introduction. In the early stage of industrialization, when workers and management attempt to negotiate with each other on frequent basis in order to increase their own gains, individual negotiation become difficult in such large size labor market. Employers found it much convenient to negotiate with a group of employees at a time rather than dealing with them individually. They gave birth to the phenomena of collective bargaining. It began from local bargaining at the plant level to the regional level and finally to the national level. There are various aspects related to this process which will be discussed further in this chapter. Famous historians of British labour movement Sidney and Beatrice Webb originated the term collective bargaining in the end of 19th century. The term denoted a procedure under which two parties, namely workers and management, reach an agreement about wage rates and basic conditions of employment. In the words of Flippo, collective bargaining is a process in which the representatives of a labor organization and the representatives of business organization meet and attempt to negotiate a contract or agreement which specifies the nature of employee-employer union relationship. Another important definition of collective bargaining, according to a manual issued by the International Labour Office in 1960, defines the term as negotiations about working conditions and terms of employment between an employer, a group of employers or one or more employers, organization, on the one hand, and one or more representative workers' organization with a view to reach an agreement. John T. Dunlop is of the view that the term collective bargaining connotes multiple meanings. Collective bargaining is a system which establishes, revises, and administers many of the rules which govern the worker's place of work. A procedure which determines the quantum of compensation which employees should receive and which influences the distribution of economic benefits. A method of settling disputes during the pendency of agreement and of determining after its expiry whether a dispute should be reopened or whether a strike or a lockout should be resorted to or not. From the above definitions, some essential features of collective bargaining can be extracted. Number 1, it is a collective process. Number 2, it is a continuous process. Number 3, it is a flexible and a dynamic process. Number 4, it is a method of partnership of workers in management. Number 5, it is based on give and take approach and not in take or leave approach. Number 6, it is an attempt in achieving and maintaining discipline in industry. Number 7, it is an effective step in promoting industrial jurisprudence. 7.6.1 Significance of collective bargaining. Collective bargaining has its importance and benefits to employees, to employers, and society at large. The description of the same is as follows. Importance to employees. Number 1, collective bargaining develops a sense of self-respect and responsibility among the employees. Number 2, collective bargaining increases the strength of the workers, their bargaining capacity as a group increases. Number 3, collective bargaining increases the morale and productivity of employees. Number 4, it restricts management freedom for arbitrary action against the employees. Number 5, if effective collective bargaining machinery strengthen the trade union management. Importance to employers. Number 1. The workers feel motivated as they can talk to the employers on various matters and bargain for higher benefits leading to higher productivity. Number 2. It is easier for the management to resolve issues at the bargaining table rather than taking up complaints of employees individually. Number 3. Collective bargaining promotes a sense of job security among the employees and thereby tends to reduce cost of labor turnover to management, employees as well as the society at large. Number 4. Collective bargaining opens up the channel of communication between the top and the bottom levels of the organization, which may be difficult otherwise. Importance to society. Number 1. Collective bargaining can facilitate industrial peace in the country. Number 2. Collective bargaining results in the establishment of a harmonious industrial climate which supports nations' economic and social development. Number 3. It is the most significant aspect of labor management relations and extends the democratic principle from the political to the industrial field. Number 4. The exploitation of workers by the management can be checked. Number 5. Collective bargaining is a measure to distribute equitably the benefits derived from industry among all the participants, including the employees, the union, the management, the customer, the suppliers, and the public. 7.6.2 Functions of collective bargaining. Arthur G. Butler identifies 3 important functions of collective bargaining which arises over the process of decision making and balancing the power between the employers and the employees. The functions are as follows. Number 1. Technique of long-run social change. As a process of social change, collective bargaining is more than the direct clash between employers and unions. It refers to the rise in the political and social power achieved by workers and the organization. With gradual rise in social and political power, workers gain greater recognition and ability to assert against employers. Number 2. Peace treaty or temporary truce. In various cases, collective bargaining can be viewed as a struggle between the workers and the management which is smoothened by the compromises. This compromise can happen in 2 major ways: compromise with combative aspects and compromise without combative aspects. Number 3. Industrial jurisprudence. It means introducing civil rights in industry, that is, management be conducted by rules rather than arbitrary decisions. It establishes rules which define and restrict the traditional authority exercised by management. 7.6.3 Process of collective bargaining. Collective bargaining is a process in which, through negotiating, workers and management attempts to arrive at an agreement on wages and other economic benefits and other terms and conditions of service. In this context, the Indian Institute of Personnel Management has suggested the following steps that constitute the process of collective bargaining. Number 1. Composition of the negotiating team. The team should consist of the representatives of both the workers and the employers with adequate qualities, job knowledge, and skill. For negotiation, they should have full knowledge of the issue and must have full authority to speak for them and take complete decision. Number 2. Making a good beginning. Well begun is half done and is true for collective bargaining too. It will be better to have a perfect clarity of the issue and both the parties begin with the correct mindset of that mutual cooperation can be secured. Number 3. Maintain continuity of talks. It is very important for a collective bargaining process to have continuity in discussion. What needs to be taken care of is that the discussion should not end midway because of any roadblock or confusion or should sidetrack. As long as the talk continue, a solution will be possible ultimately. Number 4. Develop a problem-solving attitude. To solve a problem, it is important to have correct attitude and will to solve it. Both the parties in collective bargaining must proceed with the expectation of solving the problem. Only then agreement will be easy to reach. Number 5, encourage leadership. More practical and easier is to deal with a few representatives of a strong and organized body than with a heterogeneous mass of disunited individuals. To participate in collective bargaining, not only management but union also must have a strong leadership. Number 6, bring in other managers. Issues being discussed in collective bargaining may require diverse knowledge and expertise. Not necessarily every manager is a master in all fields. Therefore, managers of different fields can be consulted to reach at the best possible solution of problem under discussion. Number 7, contract administration. The final phase in the process of collective bargaining is to administer the contract which has been agreed upon between management and union. There should be unanimity of agreement and harmonious relations between the two parties for an effective administration of the contract. Administration of the contract. 7.6.4 Collective bargaining in India. Collective bargaining is not that popular in private sector but is taken place in public sector as bipartite agreement in India. Some frequently occurred trends of collective bargaining that are found in India are as follows. Number 1, trend of counter demands. When trade unions submit their charter of demands for negotiation, management also push forward their charter of demands as counter demands. Number 2, use of coercive tactics by unions, especially when it is militant union. Even in management, some officials were found following coercive approach to collective bargaining. Number 3, industry-wise bipartite committees are there for agreement on issues like wages and other terms of employment. Number 4, the scope of collective bargaining has expanded to cover in itself issues such as dearance allowance, retirement benefits, retrenchment benefits, bonus, annual leave, production norms, performance evaluation, workers' participation in management, etc. Number 5, collective bargaining agreements in India have been concluded to settle a variety of issues at various levels such as plant level, industry level and national level. On the whole, it has been appreciated and was successful in some industries in India. 7.6.5 Obstacles to collective bargaining in India. Collective bargaining process is not much encouraged in industries of India and where it also faces certain obstacles. They are as follows. Multiple unions. No union enjoys the support of the majority of workers in the plant. Inter-union rivalry does not allow a conducive atmosphere for collective bargaining. Non-recognition. In case of multiple unions, there is problem in recognizing union to serve as a bargaining agent on behalf of the workers. Political orientation. Leaning towards political parties is found to be easier by unions. Hence, they are not much in favor of collective bargaining. Defective laws. When they provides an easy access to adjudication, the parties lose faith and patience to enter into the process of bargaining. Mediation of political leaders. In most of the industrial disputes, the settlement is driven through political leaders, inhibiting the growth of collective bargaining. 7.6.6 Suggestions for effective collective bargaining. Number 1, presence of strong and stable representative union in every plant. Number 2, recognition of representative union should be provided by law. Number 3, political leaders should be replaced by internal worker leadership. Number 4, political leaders should not interfere in industrial relations. Number 5, both trade unions and management must have faith in peaceful methods of issues between them like negotiation and collective bargaining. Last, adjudication should be resorted to only when all other remedies have failed. 7.7 Summary. Industrial relations can better be termed as a complex system formed with the three major parties, that is, employer, employee, and the government. These parties interact with each other in the functioning of an industry with their specific and unique roles. In the absence of even one of them, the survival of industry will come under question. Therefore, it becomes even more important to maintain harmonious relations among them so as to secure industrial peace, satisfaction, and higher productivity. Hence, the presence of machineries to manage industrial relation is inevitable. The vital part of industrial relations is the one who constitutes industrial relations, that is, the parties to industrial relations and their association with each other. They have their own representative groups having their specific and unique roles to play. The analysis of the above content also shows that these parties coexist and one without the other will have no significant role to play. The employers' organization is the representative group for employers and similar trade unions are for employees. Trade unions can be considered as child of industrial revolution. It was when the employers started exploiting the workers in order to secure their rights and dignity and to get them the share due to them in industries. The social reformers came forward with the concept of uniting the workers to strengthen their position before the management and get their due share in terms of monetary benefits as well as respect in return of their service. Along with that, an objective of industrial relations is to maintain industrial harmony and peace through workers' participation in management. We can say that it is workers' participation because of which we achieve industrial harmony and peace. Management also play a very significant role in securing workers' participation in management by providing them liberty to put forward their ideas and suggestions, rewarding the constructive ones, considering them to be equal partners and also mere workers, accepting their contribution in decision making, and so on. Workers' participation in the form of works committee, joint management council, suggestion schemes, co-partnership, etc. always contributes to industrial democracy leading to harmony. In an industry, peace and harmony can also be maintained when problems can be resolved collectively and peacefully among the conflicting parties. Therefore, the concept of collective bargaining was originated. It has been given different definition and meaning by different theorists. Collective bargaining has its own benefits for employees, employers, and society. It is a process with well-defined steps which needs to be followed to increase the effectiveness of the process. In India, collective bargaining is less popular as compared to the other countries because of the presence of certain obstacles which can also be prevented easily with the help of some corrective measures. Thank you for listening.